Right, 2nd of February today, and what we're going to do is really crack on as much as we can in an afternoon. It's just about 2 o'clock, and the reason why we've got to crack on is this. Suddenly the bluebells have really started getting a wiggle on. A couple of weeks ago you couldn't see them. A week ago you could just see them, and now they're quite well up. So every time I'm moving about I'm squashing them. So what we're going to do now is turn this off, start the saw, and then put you on time lapse, and you can watch me beavering about doing what I do, and hopefully it will come out this time. So see you in a little while. Right, hopefully that came out this time. So that's 2 stems down, very big ones. This is getting towards the limit of what you can do without a felling license. So if the majority of your stems are that sort of size, you'd have to think seriously about whether you needed a felling license. Even though this is coppice, even though this is clearly coppice and underwood. Anyway, so let's start with the stump. See, I put the rope up for the second one because I couldn't accurately judge the mass and the lean, and I thought it might sit back on the saw, which kind of doesn't matter. So I put the rope up, follow the line of the rope down, and I was going to pull it that way and have it fall over there. But as it turned out, it didn't need to. That's where the tops are. First one landed smack beside the hedge, which is good. I haven't cut that one off yet, but I've flushed that one up. Can't get down as low as I'd ideally like because you've got a lot of material in the base here. Most of this is going to be humus, basically rotted leaf litter, and oh dear, nut hulls and bits of rotted wood. See, there's a nut, I think. But there might be some grit in there, and what I don't want to do is to keep stopping to sharpen. That wears your chain out faster, so keep clear of that. All my cuts are cut at one level and sloped slightly so that any water runs off. It may be an old wives' tale or an old woodman's tale, but I was brought up to believe that cutting as low as possible and sloping your cuts to the outside of the stool allows the thing to grow back better and reduces the chance of rot setting in to, say, the middle of the stump. It will rot eventually anyway, but let's cut that down to a minimum. You can see I did directional felling on both. It's a nice wide bird's mouth for a nice long hinge. This has pulled some fibres out, but on stems of hazel this size they very rarely rip down into the stool unless you make your bird's mouth too narrow. So there's a bit that came out of the bird's mouth, the gob. If you made it at this sort of angle and it closed up as it was falling down, then all the mass up the top would tend to make it split and possibly barber chair. Lots of nice videos predominantly from America about barber chairs. Can be entertaining and they can turn into widowmakers, so best of what we did. So 2 saw lengths is 5 foot on that saw with a 14-inch bar, and basically trundle along, marking as you go until you get to the top, and you start taking the branches off. You see how I've done that. These are all side branches. These are sun shoots that have got big. That's a nice pole. This sort of size might do for hedging stakes, but I've got no orders for hedging stakes and I haven't looked for any because I won't produce enough. And everything's a little windy. This is not suitable. You can see it's got a rot hollow in it where something's rubbed and it's all windy. But quite often, if you cut a little creatively, you can turn what was a fork into a relatively straight length, yeah? So you sned tight, take the branches off nice and tight. And if you've got a nice sharp saw, that doesn't take very much longer. It's a nice stake there. And all these tops will go in the hedge in a minute. So that's progress with 2 stems. That's a nice place for me to fill my rope up so it's nicely coiled and ready to go next time. Next stem will be that one to come down on there, but I need to move these first, yeah? Otherwise they'll be buried. And these are the bits that pay, in inverted commas, me, or my effort. Gets my firewood for next winter, keep me nice and warm. But for that one to come down, you see this one, little one on the right? Tangled up in it and it's dead. So I'll cut that one through first. And that might hang up there on the top, so I need to keep a close eye on that. Just like in one of these, there was already a hanging branch. So that's how I do it, bit by bit by bit, not rushing too much, thinking ahead. This one's going to be an absolute bloody pest. Ideally, it wants to go down here onto this dead hedge, but if I go up here towards the back, and you look down, get you a better camera angle. Cool, me talking about camera angles. You see where it is? First stem landed in there and I rolled it out. So I deliberately cut halfway through the hinge on this right hand side so it rolled that way. If I did that on this one, I'll just lose all control. It'll get stuck in there and it'll be an absolute bitch to get out. So what I'm going to do is fell it that way. You can fell at 90 degrees to lean if you do directional felling. On this size of tree, you can't put in wedges. If this was a bigger tree, there's a sweet chestnut over there, might have a look at later. But next year I'll be felling at 90 degrees to the lean and the mass. And I will basically do a bore cut, put wedges in, and then do the final. But these ones are too small. So what I shall do is put the bird's mouth in with the rope already up. The rope will be way over there. It's 20 metres long and this is about 15 metres. Put your bird's mouth in and then do your felling cut. A nice wide hinge and it'll just sit there. If you make your hinge too narrow, it might split off. And if anything, you can make your hinge slightly wider away from the mass and the lean to give it a little bit more strength at the back of the tree. So I'll do that, then if necessary, pull the rope, but I suspect it's just going to go straight over. Other thing you can do is do your felling cuts backwards. So you put your felling cut, your horizontal at the back, in first. It's usually put in second. Put a holding wedge in, and if you've got a felling lever on site, you can put your felling lever in, and then you put your 2 cuts for your bird's mouth in. But you must be accurate. And then if it sits back on the felling lever, not a problem, you just tonk it over with a felling lever. But I shan't bother with that, partly because I've got a felling lever here, buried in the shed somewhere. Anyway, I'm going to stop for a little break and then we'll do those 2 over there and shift that lot and call the rope up. Hope that was useful and entertaining. Okay, right, that's those 2 little ones down. Let's go and have a quick look. This little one from here was the first one, that was the dead one. Chopped him off, no problem. And then that one from up there, and I've left him as he lies. So you can see the sectioning. It's sat on this stool, that's no problem. Going through here, that's where the top landed, which was perfect. So all I've got to do now is just flip those round, move these, and put my rope up this chap, up nice and high, and then pull him over. Might have you watch putting the rope up. Depends how much battery I've got left. It's saying 0, no battery, probably because it's cold. Right, crack on. Oh yes, why do I mess about felling this at 90 degrees when I could just fell this one out and straight on the dead hedge? Well, it's a case of where do you stop. This one's basically for next year. Got to build the dead hedge out around this stall to protect it. But if we start felling this stall as well, I have to build it out around it further. And quite honestly, I've got enough timber. And you can see the line of the hedge. This stall is already off to one side. Right, now I'm going to crack on. Right, I'm going to move you. You're looking out of my last good GoPro. So this tree is tall enough to hit you when you're on your little stand, which is made out of a log. So we'll put you all the way over here. Can you see? I think you can. Right, let's go and fill it. Did you see that? Didn't need the rope. Never mind. Better safe than sorry. So now we've got to retrieve the rope and section that up. And the tops can either go onto that dead hedge or this dead hedge, because they'll be kind of equidistant. There's an old geezer down in Sussex called Alan Waters. He's kind of the doyen of coppice grass people. I've only ever met him a couple of times, but I did a lot of work with a guy who he trained. And apparently, Mr. Waters says that when you work in coppice, never you move anything more than 10 steps. And that is a pretty good rule to go by. So, from here to there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and we can chuck it on. And it's slightly less over there. But there we go. Right, crack on. Right, last few glimmers of daylight. Last glimmers in the camera battery. This is what we've done today. I think you can see a difference. This is about where the post was before. Do you see? Started going to the right now. First of February, and that's what it looks like so far. So we're getting there. The end is in sight. Only about another 10 stalls to do.